Hey everybody, welcome to Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance. And on this episode, I am joined by podcast contributor Lindsey, and we are going to talk Juliette Cross's Grim and Barrett. Welcome to the podcast, Lindsey.
Thank you, Leah. Very excited to talk about another Juliette Cross with you.
Okay, and I'm Leah. I didn't say that one. I always forget to pronounce or announce who I am. Anyway, but so we will link the synopsis of the book on our on the shelf show notes at buzzingaboutromance.com. So you can go over there and check out the synopsis. But honestly, you don't need to read it for this book. You just need to read the book. So it was released May 9th, 2023. It's not a super tropey book, but it is paranormal. They are soulmates. She's a witch. He's a grim. There's vampires. There's werewolves. It's set in New Orleans. Like there's all sorts of things going on. It is in the Stay Up Spell series. It is the final book in the Stay Up Spell series, and it is a series of standalones. Like the characters themselves carry on through the book, but I read this series out of order, and I was not disappointed in it. It is told in dual first-person point of view, and the put-out percentage is 40%. And this is a new little thing we're doing because a lot of people want to know, is there a third act breakup? And no, there is not a third act breakup in this book. You can find this wide currently at the time of recording, but it will drop in Kindle Unlimited soon. So let's chat Clara and Henry.
I love Clara. There's a
love Clara
in
too.
her, and I love how much you get to see that at play in this book, especially at the beginning.
Well, actually, there's a line like in the first chapter, or even in the first a couple minutes of the book. She's like, "There's a demon inside me. I'm gonna let it out," or something like that. It's really good. I just really, really enjoy this book.
I did too. I thought it was really well done. So it's the last book in the series, and I thought it did a great job of tying up all the loose ends. I think you got just enough taste of all the other characters and wrap up from other stories, because Resting Witch Face left you on in a really intense place. Even though it had a nice satisfying ending, it was still really intense, and I liked the way this book kind of wrapped up all those loose ends.
Well, and it really culminates the characters' story arcs as a whole, because that is one thing I really love. I love the way that she did this epilogue, because honestly, as you're going into the epilogue, and you're going in the moment with them and what is happening, you think it's going to be a couple years in the future, but it's 12 years later where this epilogue is happening. And it's she really gives you a picture of where these couples have been in the last 12 years in just a really tight epilogue. But she didn't make a big deal about it. It was just the epilogue, and all this stuff is happening. And it's really, there's little things that happen in Clara and Henry's story itself that they talk about. And I thought that was really sweet, the way that she wrapped up the whole series together.
Yeah, it's just so well done. I will say this book was fairly intense, though. There was a lot. I was not expecting a lot of this. I think given how many Easter eggs there were for Clara and Henry, I reread the whole series leading up to this book, and I was picking up on a lot of different things. And given all the Easter eggs leading up to it, I was really still not prepared for Henry at all.
Well, and honestly, going into it, so the series itself they're funny. They have that rom-com element, but they're PNR, excuse me. And so I wasn't going into this book thinking it was going to be as heavy as it was, but she didn't make it so heavy that you were overrun by that. You still have this really funny elements. You have fucking Alpha. He just shows up randomly, and it's it's a delight. And you have enough calm, funny, steady moments, those really heavy topics that she brings forth. They're not so overwhelming, but there's some heavy stuff in this one.
Yeah, I think that's what I wasn't expecting, because Clara is so light and bubbly, and then she's kind of struggling in this book. Like a lot of the book, she's struggling, and it's not really something her sisters can help her with, and Henry can. And it's really cute how it brings them together. You brought up Alpha, that game night scene with Alpha.
Where they're playing Game of Thrones.
Oh my goodness. The Game of Thrones where Alpha's getting grouchy, and then he's talking about doing it out in the woods, nature, and it, oh my gosh, it was the funniest.
Like, I mean, honestly, he only shows up like 2 or 3 times in the whole book, and you always know because all of his parts are bold. So like when Alpha is there, like Alpha is there, but it's just he's such comedic like relief where like he's supposed to be, but he's not supposed to be because he's this really intense character, but he just says the damnedest things and you just laugh and fucking Alpha.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like Clara seems to struggle, but at the same time, I think part of Clara's struggle is the fact that she feels so in tune with Henry in his feelings, and like she's such a center for him that she isn't sure like what to do with that. Like it's almost too much for her at times, but it's not at the same time. And I really enjoy that about her character. She is this light, not fluffy, but she is this light, fluffy person in a sense. But at the same time, like she knows her worth. She's knows what she's capable of, and her struggles. It's okay because like everybody around her is like getting married and having those relationships, and she's still kind of floundering a little bit because Henry is a little clueless because he's a man. We'll just say that Grimm is a little clueless, but I like the fact that he is her center as well.
Yeah, I like that too. I think so for Clara, I don't think I expected her romance to be quite as dark as it was. There, like all the way going back to Witches Get Stitches, like there's this idea that Clara's like, so they have fortunes told, and like since they were young kids, like it's always been Clara's going to live to be like 900, and she's going to have this very happy marriage. She's going to have 7 babies. She's got all this like happy stuff. And when she realizes like that's with Henry, she's kind of like, let's just get on with it, okay? And she's just ready. Henry totally puzzles her because she can't sense his emotions, the kind of witch that she is. She is called an aura, so she's kind of like an empath type witch where she can feel people's feelings. And she kind of
she can kind of push those on people. Well, she kind of pushes those feelings too. Like if somebody's feeling anxious or upset or anything like that, like she can like put her energy into them and like center them, which I think is like one thing I love about this series is Juliette Cross's storytelling and the way that she has created this world and these characters. I just love it so much.
It's very rich. It really puts the story, especially this one. Like you are in. So going back to Gareth and Livy's book, you see a little bit about what Henry can do, but in this book, like she takes you to a totally different world, and the way she handles it, like given that all happens within one book, the way that she handled it, it was very easy to imagine everything, I thought.
Well, and I was actually really surprised by the way some of Henry's past was, because when you read about like Grimm's and like in Gareth's book, like how they don't really suppress, they kind of live in the moment with their magic. I mean, Gareth suppresses a little bit, but overall, like Grimm's really kind of like not flounder, but they really like take charge and like move forward. And it's like their magic is like what makes they're almost like aristocratic in like their magic, because they feel it. There's like the belief that a lot of Grimms feel like normal, I'm doing air quotes if you can't see me, like normal magic people are below them, and like Grimms are the superior type of magic, in the way that like you get the feeling from like some of the things that they say. But like with Gareth and Henry, like they never put off that air. And he's so controlled. And when you hear, like, when you read about why he is controlled, like, you break, he breaks you a little bit, because
He
it's
does.
sad, and it's frustrating in a sense, because like he was never given that outlet, and like never given the tools to like understand what he's capable of, and the fact that like he is so much more than like he has thought he is.
Yeah, and I really love, like, okay, so it's funny, Clara's the aura, but Henry, like, being that she can't sense his feelings at all, he's so incredibly deep feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he lives in his feelings a little bit.
He does, yeah.
I
Well, and he's so in tune with her feelings, which I think was a really interesting take, because she's the aura, but like he is in tune with her, like tiny little nuances. Like there's a scene where something happens and she finds something out and she's not telling him, and like he knows like instantly, just by like the way in which like she is interacting, and because she has this glow to her most of the time, like in the literal sense at one point in this book, but you'll have to read about that one. But she has this glow to her, in this like bubbliness, not airheadedness, but bubbliness, that he notices right away that she doesn't have it. And he's like, what is going on? And he's freaking out a little bit.
The glow is hysterical.
I love the glow part. So it's not a spoiler, because it's just, so they have sex for the first time, and the next day she's like a lightning bug. She is a glowworm. Like it is like the glow is like just everywhere. Like she can't go outside because her entire body is lit up and glowing. And he's like, is this going to happen every time we have sex? She's like, I don't know. We'll find out next time we have it.
It's hysterical. It's hysterical. She's forced to stay home from work. She's
Uh-huh.
basically put on like house arrest because she cannot be seen.
Because she's a
Illegal.
glowworm.
Yeah, and then Henry was like looking for her, and they're like, "You just need to go deal with her. Like, go see her. Just go
Mhm.
see her." And he's absolutely shocked. He's like, "I cannot believe what has happened."
He's like, is this going to be permanent? She's like, no, it's fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. There's one line though, like, because she had talked, it was before they like finally like got together. So it was before the 40%. And she talked about how like they're going slow. And one of her sisters says, slowly, you've been obsessed with him for like a year, and I think he's been stalking you for way longer than that. And then she says, it's not stalking if it's mutual. I just laughed really hard, because they do kind of stalk each other. Like they always know where the other one is. Like they're very in tune to each other. So it's like, and like Clara has been inviting Henry to all these things, and he keeps saying no, because like he doesn't think that he is worthy of like her happy. And I just really I just really love it. But there is another line, because so Henry takes her to her house, and he has this library, and they talk about the movie Atonement. So if you've seen this movie, there's a really intense library scene, and so they kind of reenact the library scene, but not quite, a little bit different, which it was very well done and very good. But later in the book, she's telling her sisters about the library, and Violet's like, yeah, bitches love libraries.
I forgot about it.
I laughed so
I did
hard. I
not
was
forget
like,
the
that's me.
library scene. Look at my notes right there. Henry's
Library.
library. That's the biggest note on the page, and I like highlighted it and gave it an exclamation.
Because that was damn
Exclamation point.
hot.
It
Really
was, but
hot.
also like, who does not feel a little bit jealous about that
He
library?
had ladders, like the rolling ladders in his library. I am bitches. Bitches love libraries.
Yeah, I am too. I could not believe it. I love how like Clara's instantly just in love with his house. Like
Mhm.
she basically, so the book starts and she's basically forcing her way into Henry's house with cupcakes
Yeah,
because she has had it and she has decided
they're going to be together, and
decided
she's
that
tired of waiting.
So she's got a plan. She's got like a 12-step plan. And step 1 is the cupcake, teasing him with cupcakes. And step 2 is getting him to show up to her book club.
Yeah. Well, I love those scenes too, because he's such a stoic guy. And they're talking, and it's a romance book club. So it's very reminiscent of like Drunk Book Club, but probably not as chaotic and with less dirty pictures.
I love how like he shows up to the first one and he's like all gothed out, and the old ladies are like kind of giving him a lot of shit.
Mhm.
They give him a really hard time for being in Drunk Book Club, that like
It's not Drunk Book Club, but it's basically Drunk Book Club.
I think it's just an excuse for Clara to eat more sweets.
Probably. Well, and like there's a moment later when he's talking about her cupcake, because she likes to bake, and he's talking about her cupcakes, and he's like, I can't think about these cupcakes. Like, it just makes me
Oh
hard.
my gosh. She is like, from the beginning, she's just like slowly tipping him over the edge. And I like that it doesn't take
I mean,
long.
there was
But
very little tipping needed. Like he was ready to be tipped. Like he needed to be tipped. Like, and honestly, everybody was like, finally, fuck, finally.
well, I want to know, like, I would love like hidden scenes or like deleted scenes from like Clara over the years harassing all of her sisters for information, because
Mhm.
like, somehow all of them are tied to Henry in a way. Like now, like especially once they start the game nights, like all of them have
Mhm.
tied to Henry and information about Henry. And Clara's like slowly been trying to get information about him because she can't send him out. And it's just so funny. Like she finds out Violet gave him a tattoo, and she's like, but
She's so
you're my
mad
twin
about that.
sister. You're my twin sister. And you knew I loved him for like a year.
Well, and she was real mad because she's like, she saw you without a shirt before I did.
Yes, I forgot about that.
There's
Oh
so
my God.
many little things in this book that like they're it's like they're almost like throwaway lines, but they're just so good. Like I this book is just so well written, and this entire series is so well done, and like there's so many elements to the story itself though. Like it is not like there's layers upon layers, but and so there is a whole story, and there is a bad guy, and I totally called the bad guy. Like I figured it out. I knew who it was going to be, but it happened. But what happened because of the bad guy, I did not know. And let me tell you, chapter 33 is very good. At the very end of chapter 33, as soon as I was done reading it, I texted Lindsey, holy fuck.
And based on when you texted me, I knew where you were. I confirmed, and I was right where you were. And it's like
Yeah.
Juliette Cross throws you off a cliff before she gives you the HEA.
Like
And you just have like a
throws you.
massive, like, if there is a moment in a book that rivals the end of Avengers Infinity War, it is that one. But at least she didn't make you wait 2 years for
Well, this is true, but that is her like nerdy loving heart, like right there. Like maybe she was like tapped into the Avengers because she loves that shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would not be surprised. I felt like there were so many little Easter eggs packed in. Like Clara has kind of a pseudo friendship with Rhett from the
Uh-huh.
Blood Pack, and their scenes are really cute together. Like it's so
Yeah,
funny because
throughout the series.
like a
Yeah.
little puppy
Mhm.
following around Clara, and like Henry is growly as all get out when he's around, and it's
Oh
just
yeah. Well, and that's the thing, like she's created so many options for new books. Like Sean, Henry's younger brother, like there's a story there, Juliette Cross. There's a story there, and we need it. We don't know if you're staying in this world, but we would love it if you do. But that's the thing, like there's so many options. Like she really could go any direction. But one thing I really like about this book is like Henry like has like very little contact with his dad. Like there's something that happened in his past, like you learn about it, like, and he basically cut ties, like he was done. But by the end of the book, like you don't know if they've fixed things, but like they have the opportunity to fix things. Like things are better, but they're not great. So like it leaves it kind of open-ended. And I kind of like that she does that, because if she does do a book for Sean, then like I think we will see more of that relationship and the culmination and like how that like has manifested, which, so there, we need that just for
Yeah.
that, because there, like, there's a whole part of like that whole storyline is like where the end of chapter 33, like what happens like because of it. And so, but it was a really interesting dynamic that she created with that whole story. And I know I'm being super vague and it's really confusing because you just need to read the book, because if I tell you anything, like I will spoil it, and I don't want to do that because this is a book that you need to read.
I like the way that she handled that section, and I agree. You just need to read it. We're so limited in all the things that we could say because
Mm-hmm.
if I actually like talked off the chart, I'd spoil everything.
Oh,
I had to write
1000%.
notes about what I was allowed to say and what I wasn't allowed.
Well, and that's the thing, like there are certain things that happen. It's like, is that a spoiler? Like, yes, it kind of is. And like it has been out long enough for enough people to have read it. And since it's still wide right now, like we know those KU people are like holding out and waiting, but it's so we don't want to tell you, but if you do read it, you can slide into our DMs and tell us how you feel, because Lindsey and I would love to talk about this book more with anybody who's willing to talk about it with us. So it's just really, really well done. And I'm really sad. Like this whole series is really good. And it makes me really sad that it's over.
I am sad too.
But it ended on a high note, which sometimes the final book in series do not end on a high note. And then you're left grumpy.
Yeah, and then okay, so like one of the things that Juliette Cross did really well in this story is that each book in the series has its own like mystery suspense element to it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like at the same time, it's like the whole storyline, even though you can read them out of order, it's like certain things have happened to make the next romance in the series possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It
Yeah.
just feels like the timing of everything is very intentional, very well done. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just
There's
so
a
good.
lot of thought in the way this whole series played out. Like Alpha and, well, Mateo and Evie, and like the introduction of Nico and him, and like that whole thing. And that's not until book 3. But like I said, I read these books out of order, which I typically do not do. But like I really needed to get, like, after I read Mateo's book, I really needed Nico's book. So I bounced there. And then I went to Gareth and Livy. And then I went back to book 2. And it just, and I was okay like doing them out of order. And I think that's part of it too. Like they're true standalones, and there's little elements in each book that like you do get more of the nuances if you read it in order, but you don't have to. And that's the thing, like she Easter eggs so well without it being obvious. But I think that is like some of like that like comic book loving heart of hers, because Easter eggs in comic books and like those types of serials like are a huge thing.
There's also so much that happens in these books. I can't believe they're really short, quick reads considering how much is packed in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one was a little bit longer, but it wasn't like so much longer that it was too much. Like it definitely was longer, but I think if it had taken less, if she had made it shorter, then like it wouldn't have been as impactful, but it's still not super long. And they're easy. They're easy reads. Like, but they suck you in so much. Like you can finish the whole book and like you don't even realize you're like halfway done.
Yeah,
Just
it's hard
just
to put
go
in.
It is. Just go read it. Read the whole series. I have not personally done the audio, but I've heard the audiobooks are very
Oh,
well done as well.
so good. So it's Aiden Snow. He is absolutely phenomenal as the voice of Alpha.
Oh, I love me some Aiden Snow.
I love Aiden Snow so much. And then Joanna Fairview is the female voice, and they
Mhm.
go so well together. I have every single book and audiobook in this series, and it is so well done. And like it's so good. The audio is some of the best audio in my opinion. Because they're both my favorites. Like she picked my 2 favorites.
Well, but From what I've heard is their voices blend really well together. And honestly, like if you've listened to Aiden Snow, like he has that gruff, growly voice and like he can deepen it and make it even more gravelly. And so it works really well with these types of characters. Because when I think of even Mateo, like when I think Alpha, I think like deep, guttural, like voice. Like any of these male characters in this series, I don't think of anything higher pitched. Like I love Teddy Hamilton, but I don't think Teddy Hamilton's voice would have worked well with this style of book. But that's just, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he did it so well. And like Devraj, I think, is the one that I feel is the most like soft spoken and like least growly of them. And like Aiden Snow adjusted his tone. I mean, like he still had his same wonderful voice, but like the way he like addressed each character was just really well done.
Well, thank you, Lindsey, for joining me on this quick shot of romance. And honestly, we could talk about it for another 20 minutes, but we don't have time for that.
Just read
Unfortunately, just read it. Yes. And if you have a book you think we should review for a quick shot of romance, send us an email at thebees@bookcaseandcoffee.com. And until next time, happy reading, everybody.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.